generosity, basically to all of my collection is from Tom Patterson. So thank you, Tom. I love you. Um, but yeah, so I have
Clip
here
it.
uh, Bonatania tanzari. I'm gonna once I open it, I'll let you guys come and see it. But it is a dwarf species. Got caught here. All right. So if I, okay, I don't know how I can get you guys closer. Can you guys see that? Okay, how about there? Is that good? Can you see the
Looks good.
right there? Here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me get a small paintbrush because this is a small tarantula.
So, hey, Kat, why don't you tell us why you put it on a sheet of paper?
Oh yeah. So I am also on a floor mat, which is rubber. It's soft, but I'm also putting it on paper so you guys can actually see this species because it's a dwarf species. And if you have something black, you do not want to lose it.
Huh.
So I have this size here. Anyways, I don't know how well you can see it.
All right. So, my point in asking her that, folks, was the level of preparedness that she is. Oop, there it is. Showing us every extra safety precaution.
Oh, I thought that was the.
Oh, baby. We can see it really well. Beautiful.
So I'm gonna tap the back leg. Even though at this size, you still want to do your methods, your steps. Tap the back leg. You saw that hair kick?
Yes, I did.
So we're saying, don't bother me, but we have a calm demeanor, so we can still do little pokes. Oh, you see that? We're turning around. That means we're hungry or do not bother me. So we're actually not going to pick this one up. See that? How it's grabbing.
Mm-hmm.
At this size, you can even get this same adult behavior. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Grabbing the brush, holding onto the brush, thinking that it's food. So, can you let go, baby? I'll give you something to eat. Let go. Let go. Thank you. All right. So I'm gonna grab her something to eat real quick. Can you see it that good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm it's actually showing up quite well. And by the way, folks, when you get a sling and you get them in a little cup like this or any type of little sling enclosure, this is actually really easy to see. Most slings can be very tough to see, and a lot of slings, whether they're arboreal, terrestrial, or fossorial, will actually burrow down in substrate. That's quite common for a lot of tarantula species of any type because they're little and they want to hide, and it's the safest place is to make their own little burrow in the ground.
Mm-hmm. And talk about the enclosure size. Why it's in a deli cup.
So if you give them too much space as a sling, number one, it's going to be very hard to find them. Number two, it's going to be even harder to control the environment for something that small. Uh, and number three, just like a lot of other animals, if you give them something giant, it makes them a little more nervous. They
Mm-hmm.
like somewhere that they feel safe in. And I really agree with that. There's been arguments when it comes to snakes and lizards when they're babies. And I have found in my personal experience that giving an animal that's something that's too big without any areas to hide makes them more nervous.
Yeah.
So,
All right. So here in my hand, I have a small super worm. Thanks to the generosity of Sean that provided me with these worms. All right. So because it's small, it's the perfect size for the tarantula, although they can take down something a little bit bigger, but you don't want to give them that. So when you're feeding them super worms or any type of worm, and you don't know if your tarantula is in pre-molt, always crush the head of the prey
mhm.
so they don't dig and then eat your tarantula.
Same thing goes for crickets.
Yes, especially for crickets. So here we go.
Crickets are jerks.
Ooh, nice. We
Get
were.
some.
All right. So
So there
yeah,
is no anti-venom for tarantulas, really.
no, because there's no need.
Hmm. No one has ever actually died of a tarantula bite if they weren't uh, allergic. There we go. Words. I got words, cat.
um, I want to point out too, when you're feeding tarantulas, make sure you top off their water dish, because they get really thirsty after they eat. Even though they had all that hydration, they still uh, they still need that water after they eat.
And I have a minor cheat code that I like. Um, I have found out that I like to feed fruit flies quite a bit to my true slings until they become an actual spiderling, because fruit flies are really safe, um, and much easier to leave in there, and I don't have to worry if they're pre-molt, molting, post-molt. Now there's difficulties with that, right? Fruit flies get out. So I buy help me out here with the correct name. Is it we call them the Heidi's, the large fruit flies? Um, is that the
Uh,
correct name?
I don't know.
Uh, but they're the large. When you go to any feeder store, they'll be the large fruit flies. If they don't know what that is, don't get them from there.
Okay.
That's They don't know what they're doing.
Mm.
Um, so generally, one of the great people to talk to about fruit flies is actually dart frog people, because
Oh.
that's primarily what they feed. We've got a great vendor up here in Michigan with us called Cedar Creek Dart Frogs, and they charge, I think, $6 or $7 for a fruit fly culture. And then
Mhm.
once you get it, you can just get your own rapashi fruit fly culture stuff and raise your own. But I
Mhm.
actually take the short fruit fly cups, because they have the fruit fly lids on them. And then
Yeah.
I turn those into a little, once the slings get a little bit bigger, I turn those into a little sling enclosure. I give them a nice piece of small cork bark to hide under down there. Like she said, a nice little tiny water dish. And I miss the sides every so often. And it's worked out really well. I can control the humidity, I can control the food source, and fruit fly cups are not very expensive. Now, fruit fly cups, everybody knows, are tall, but they make a shorter one for like dubious, and you can get that shorter one so you don't have this crazy tall top either.
Mm. All right. So this one is also considered a wait, right there.
Yep, there we go.
Sling. And I can't take this one out, but I wanted to show you. This one is in pre-molt, heavy duty pre-molt. So let me see if I can show you guys the like closeness of the abdomen. So all the hair is kicked off. This is its molt mat right here, because we are going to get ready to molt. And so when you see your tarantula has a very big booty, big abdomen, very dark or shiny, that means we're getting ready to molt. Also,
Hmm.
very lethargic, very slow moving, is because they're getting ready to molt. So I'm going to give her some water and make sure one side has enough humidity. Ooh, sorry, honey. That was too strong. There.
Yeah, when you have a feeling they're going to be in pre-molt, I usually give it just I use a mister similar to hers, and I try to mist the substrate just lightly, just to give it a little bit of something in there.
Yeah.
Um, I've also noticed too that one of the things that's helped some of my tarantulas is even in the winter, the summer definitely, I'll put, because air conditioning is on almost everywhere, I put like a little seed mat down, um, or some type of heat mat underneath all my tarantula enclosures, and I keep it at about 80, because 75 at night, 70 at night, because most tarantulas come from a reasonably warm area.
Yeah.
Um, and I've been doing some research, and I want to continue down that road. We know this is true for snakes. We know it's true for lizards and a lot of other animals, but the correct temperature helps with metabolism and digestion of food. So that's going to be one of my long research projects, is to find out how much we actually know about that and what actually happens. So just because they're in a desert doesn't mean they need 100-degree temperatures,
Yep.
because they hide underneath rocks, they hide under cool areas to cool themselves off. So really where they're at might only be 70 degrees or 80 degrees, not 100 degrees.
Exactly.
Um, so I found 80-ish degrees, 75-ish degrees to be a pretty solid temperature. Um, and I've noticed when there's a warm area, one of my tests was I used an Arizona blonde because they come from a hot area, and I did a long enclosure. Half of it was on the heat mat, half of it was not. I figure we'll do it like a snake. They have a cool area and a warm area, and they spend a lot of their time on the warm area. And that let me know what we needed to do.
Mhm.
It's a Choco.
Yes, good job. All right, so a lot of people, this is one of the hobby staples, beginner. Um, in my opinion, this is just me from my experience. I'm not saying this is the same with everyone. In my experience, my Grandma Stella poker bees have always been spicy. So this is the next size up from the previous. This is a juvenile, full juvenile species, or the size of it would be like the palm of your hand. So the next size up would be around this inch mark. So this is 4 inches right here. And we're going to test if we're hungry, moody, or if we're okay. So we touch the back leg. Hi, Sweeney. Are we going to be a good girl?
You seem happy enough.
I don't know. She's turning around. Oh, okay.
Nope, apparently not.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
She said, leave me alone.
this is an awesome point right here. So on my list, I'm gonna out one of the ones on my list real quick, and I want everybody to notice this. My experience is the exact opposite of cats, and I actually love it that we have a different opinion on something, because I really want you to listen, that two people that have dealt with tarantulas in different ways have different opinions on this. So that way, when you hear something on Dave's Beasties, who's a great tarantula channel, or the Tarantula Collective, or Urban Tarantulas, or some of the any of the ones out there that have big channels, that there are going to be different opinions because of different experiences.
Yep.
I've had exceptionally good luck with literally every Chaco Goldenie that I've ever had, or I should say have dealt with, that I've taken photos of, that I've poked and prodded to move around. Uh,
Yeah.
I had one this last weekend that might or might not be coming home with me soon. Um, I literally had it at a reptile expo. I was handling it, showing everybody how cool it was. A lot of first time people got to see it. And so for me, Choco Goldenies are heavily on my list of first time ones that I recommend. But I want you to know that that doesn't mean that it is necessarily the best one.
Mm-hmm.
As you just saw, she was not happy when that abdomen throws in the air like that. That is a no-go. That is, you're done. We're not
And
touching you.
yeah, and you saw how she didn't kick hair. She just lifted that booty.
Mm-hmm.
So that just goes to show you that that's just step one before kicking hairs. So she
Yep.
was mad, but she wasn't mad enough to kick hairs.
Yep. Oh, and by the way, folks, they might not kick hairs. They might not raise, their booty, but they'll show you something first,
Mm-hmm.
and they might skip kicking hairs and go right to threat display, or possibly even a bite. So pay attention.
Yeah,
Don't assume that there's a slow progression into violence. it,
exactly.
it might happen quick.
Right. Okay. So here we have, I don't know how well you can see that. Let me get,
Oh, is this a curly hair?
no,
Can't see.
often mistaken for curly hair, but no,
Chilean rose hair?
nope.
Dang it, I'm swinging and missing.
Yeah, this is actually native species to Northern America from Missouri
Oh.
all the way up to Maine and here in Massachusetts as well. This is, oh, there we go. The Alphonopelma hensi, also known as the Texas brown tarantula.
Mm-hmm.
But
Very cool
they,
tarantula.
yeah, they are really widely known. All,
Slide it back just a touch, cat.
no, there.
A little bit forward. Perfect. There we go.
All right, so this is Shadow. Story on this: when it comes to purchasing at a pet chain store, this is why majority of the time, I don't like getting tarantulas at pet paint stores because they often mislabel their tarantulas. So here's the story. When I was at the store, I'm not gonna say which one, I was looking for what was it? I think it was a Samani. No, it was a T Vegans. I was looking for T Vegans, one of the red rumps. And so I got it as a juvenile, a young, very young juvenile. And so when I got it, it kind of looked like the T Vegans. So I thought, okay, I got it, T Vegans. It molted out into this, which is not a T Vegans, but a Phaneropelma hensi. So when you're at a pet chain store and a tarantula looks like another tarantula species because they're young, make sure when they grow up, you know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, honey. You see it? I'm always tapping the back leg to see. Oh, we kicked some hair.
Mm-hmm.
But are we still wanting to? Maybe.
And by the way, folks, this goes back to learning your animal. Sometimes animals kick hair in their enclosures. It's a defensive thing, but once
Mm-hmm.
they're out, they're more calm.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of tarantulas that become very enclosure defensive that will kick hairs, getting them out or getting into their enclosures, even if it's a deli cup at a show.
Mm-hmm.
And once they're out, they're perfectly fine.
Yep.
No issues, no hair kicking. We're comfortable.
So that slow moving is okay. You don't want to rush them. So you saw how I took a little break.
Yeah, both of my Arizonas, the minute I do anything in their enclosure, they both look at me like they're going to kick hairs. They've calmed down a little bit, but it's very common for me to just mess their water dish or do anything like that. Even when feeding them, sometimes they'll think about kicking a hair. But I'll put my hand down there and tap them into it, and they're fine.
So we have a lot of resistance here. So I'm not going to force her. So even though she's halfway out, not halfway out, but if they, become really stiff, they don't want to come out. So I'm not going,
Mm-hmm.
so that's showing respect. So I'm going to tap her back in. There we go. Because you never want to force them out. Never.
Yep. Do you see that little front flick there, folks, where she tapped that? That's a warning tap. She kind of kicked that brush there real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll know the difference because they'll reach out, they'll pull their little leg back, and they'll reach out and they'll kind of tap quick.
Man, nobody wants to come out, really? All right, I'm
Oh,
gonna try.
don't worry if you don't. I've got one that absolutely wants to. She will not stay in her stinking enclosure. She thinks
You.
that she's supposed to roam everywhere.
All right, this is Mitzi, the Chilean rose hair or porteri.
Yep.
Yeah, you can see.
Another cool Grammostola species.
Mm-hmm. Again, um,
Grammostola rosea.
yeah,
Look at
one
me
of
go learning the Latin.
yeah, one of the so-called beginner species. I say they're not.
You know, That is something that I was actually going to bring up too.
Saw that?
And there you go. I have something I like to call a 50-50 species, right?
Yeah.
Since we're on that, I'll bring them up, and I'm going to make a lot of people upset.
Okay.
Curly hares are not a first-time species, in my opinion, and I will explain why. 50% of them I've found to be very happy and docile. The other 50, not so much. And they have the most urticating hairs of any of the species out there.
That's true.
So if you're new to the hobby, why pick the porcupine?
Yep.
um, even in their enclosure, even if they're not hair kickers, their enclosure is going to be absolutely doused with urticating hairs. So anytime you do anything in there, you run the risk of really irritating your skin, your eyes, your nose, your throat. Um, and I have nothing personally against them. I just dislike that because they're readily available, they're inexpensive, and some person at one point said they're the greatest, the one I've got, the best ever. They just became a staple of the hobby and the ultimate first time tarantula that everybody seems to recommend. And it might not be, just like the Chilean rose hair. If you get one that's good and happy, they're awesome. But if you don't, it's kind of disappointing if it's your first tarantula, and it can be a little intimidating. Also on that list are one that I like that I think for intermediate people is good, but pink toes, right?
Yeah.
I have seen some amazing pink toes that are the most docile things ever that remind me of my Brazilian black.
Hmm.
The other ones are just so skittish and fast that they're going to intimidate a first time tarantula owner because they skitter around so fast. Um, and there's a few on that list, right? Um, like I said, the red legs, the or the fire legs, the red knees,
Mhm.
all of those can make some amazing first time pets, but they can also be hair kicking, grumpy little turds.
Yeah.
Green bottle blues for me are the exact same. Um, I've seen so many that are just skittish and or grumpy, but I've seen some that are amazing. But my problem is I don't want to recommend hoping that I'm going to get the one that's amazing versus the grumpster.
Right.
And
So,
by the way, folks, grumpy tarantulas can easily be dealt with time, patience, and experience. And if you're new to it, you're just it's easy to get the time and the patience, but the experience needs needs a little bit. You need to go and earn that a little bit, and go spend time with someone like Kat or like I did with Andy, or find someone in the hobby that's willing to part some knowledge. Maybe go volunteer at there's a lot of places out there that will let you volunteer to help feed tarantulas because they've got hundreds of them when they're working in there, and that's an easy way to gain experience.
yep. So what do I have here?
That looks like a Brazilian black from here, what I'm seeing, but has a
Yep.
very reddish booty.
Yeah, he's balding. He's getting ready
Uh-oh.
soon.
Is he getting ready for his last molt, or has he got a couple more?
I hope not. But this is Gotham. He is my number one baby because he's been since I've had him since the sling. He's always been sweet. I mean, I think he knows my voice. He knows my vibration. So he's always been very sweet with me. Um, why am I working on the floor, Joe?
Oh, I'm sitting here literally waiting for somebody to answer in the group.
Oh.
So we go back to, if it's on the floor, it can't fall.
Mm-hmm.
And Brazilian blacks are not an arboreal species. So Sean, if you want to click to me, uh, when you look at terrestrial versus arboreal, right? So terrestrial will have a hook like this. All right. Those are what are going to be on their little feet. They'll have two. two little hooks that'll help them hold on to stuff. Arboreals actually have them hooked. They're curved to hang on to things. Terrestrials are a lot straighter. It helps them move faster across flat ground. So
Yep.
what that means is a terrestrial species is not meant to be up in the air. None of them should really be up in the air and being suspended because they have the chance of falling, but definitely not a terrestrial like what she's got.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Sean.
I also want to point out too. Now, the reason why we say tarantulas are tolerant is because they don't really like the feel of human skin. Look, see that? He's always going to avoid it, but they can tolerate it.
I have a theory as to why that is.
Why?
So, if you had a chance to climb a ladder, or you were at, let's say, a butcher shop and you could climb the side of a beef, which is going to feel more sturdy to you? A solid beam or pole, or do you want to grab something squishy? And we're
Right.
squishy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have known a few tarantulas when they're colder will like to sit in my hand or on my arm because I'm warm and like to stay there because of warmth. It's not because they like me, it's just because I'm warm. Tarantulas like warmth too. Um, but yeah, I would think that it's probably kind of like for them walking across a waterbed or something, like how we feel in super loose beach sand. Like every one of us is going to choose a sidewalk at a beach to walk on versus the sand almost every time, right? Because
Right.
it doesn't feel, we don't have a sound footing.
All right. So you see what I'm doing? Hand under hand.
And by the way, if you bring your hand over the top of the tarantula, you could spook it and you also aren't able to see it.
There you go. So we're gonna take a little rest.
I
No.
think most everybody in the exotics hobby knows that don't take your eyes off the animal.
Right. There he goes. There you go. And you always want to guide them. Wait for their little toesies.
Oh goodness, yes.
And we're gonna go back home.
That reminds me of something I want to say. So, folks out there, there's a lot of different enclosures that you can put an animal in, and we've talked about them. Uh, there are a lot of different acrylic ones that have magnets on them. Be very, very careful of the magnetic ones um, when you close them. Some of the magnets are really strong. I'm not calling out a brand or anything like that. I had an incident that almost happened here a little bit back, and I was being very careful, and that saved the animal. Um, and it had come back up the enclosure and wanted to come back out, and it got just a little paw there as I went to let the lid close back down. And luckily, I had my thumb right there, and I always keep my thumb in because I'm scared of it snapping down and making too much noise and frightening the animal just in general. Well, it come back up, wanted to come out, and I literally put my thumb there and stopped it so I could poke it, and it went back down into its little hide. And if I had let that go, it probably would have snapped off probably good 3/8 to a half an inch of its foot
Wow.
or crushed it. So
Okay. All right. So what did we learn?
that all of your animals, except for the one, did not want to play today.
Yeah. Yep. Basically. So yeah, you never want to stress them by forcing them to wanting to come out, as you saw with most of my animals. Now they're not going to be like that all the time, but
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I do want to point out too is that it is winter, so they're very lethargic, however, very moody during winter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when they're in pre-molt, don't mess with them. They they will give you that sign, don't mess with me. So like how you saw with Sweeney, she's probably going to go into pre-molt if she doesn't want to be messed with. Gotham, on the other hand, he's in heavy pre-molt, and he will keep going. He will keep walking. He would, you know, he's very hyper. But that does not mean that every day I could take him out and stuff like that. So don't do.
Hmm. People, don't try to walk your tarantulas.
Right.
They're not for walking.
Yeah. So my list, did I do my list yet or no?
No, let's do your list, and then I'll jump over to mine when you're done. And let's, folks, I'm actually hoping that we have a very different list, um, because I want you to see the difference of opinions, and that matters, right? Because that's going to mean experience has been different. And once again, it furthers you to go out and do your own research, to go and actually look. Don't, Kat said it best, don't just go buy it on a whim, on an impulse. Go spend time, find a good vendor and a breeder, in your area, and let them know that you're brand new and that you want to check it out and see what works for you,
Mhm.
um, and what you like, and do your research. Watch everyone. If you're gonna watch YouTube, watch everybody's. Don't just watch, like, you know what, I really like, you know, Captain Tarantula over here, out of Arizona. They have the coolest shit in, dang it, clip it. And they have the coolest stuff, and I want one of theirs. Well, watch everybody's. Watch Tarantula Collective, Spider Shop, Urban Tarantula, Dave's Beasties. I don't know if Marshall Arachnids puts anything out. Anyone that I'm missing. I'm sure there's a ton of other great. I think there's a guy named Tom Moran. Who am I missing, Kat? There's somebody out there.
Yeah,
Uh,
I would personally say Tom Moran is for education. Tom Moran.
there you
Um,
go. Big shout out to you, Tom Moran.
yeah, for breeding, to getting into breeding and stuff like that. Um, Dave's Little Beasties in the UK. For
I
entertainment,
also like his enclosures a lot too. He does a really good job with those.
yeah. For entertainment, you have Tarantula, the Tarantula Collective, and Urban Tarantulas. Those. Oh, and the Dark Den, but the Dark Den does a
Yep.
lot more education too. So yeah,
And there you go, folks. And just because they're a smaller YouTube channel too, don't discount them. Watch any little bit of knowledge you can get, but actually go through and start reading some of the Google research. Don't just use Wikipedia,
yeah,
um, and make sure that it's current.
yeah.
Just like in the reptile hobby or the other exotic hobby, there's a lot of outdated knowledge. Um, I know of a few, at least, tarantulas that have been reclassified, renamed. They're finding out that Arizona blondes are not just Arizona blondes; they're different localities, um, and they're starting to wonder if there's actually two different types.
Yeah.
There's the Amazon pink toe or Amazonian pink toe. That's not actually. They removed it from the aviculare group, which almost all pink toes are under the aviculare group.
Yep.
Um,
Carabina.
what else? Yep. Uh, I'm missing some other ones, but they've reclassified a few of those, and they've changed names. My favorite. So Brazilian blacks aren't actually Brazilian blacks, folks. We still call them that because it's so common. Kat and I had to do some research, and I just finished watching some more of it the other day. Um, so we mixed up two species because they look so very similar. And they are actually, what I guess the easiest way to call them is cousins.
Cousins. Yeah.
They're still able to breed, but I had one. Um, we call it a Grammostola curii, right? Did I say it right?
Your guy. Yep.
Curii. That's actually what we're supposed to call Brazilian black. Was an Ecuadorian beauty or
Uruguay.
Paraguay, yeah. Black beauty.
Yep.
And we swapped the two species, and the only real difference you can see outwardly is that once they're finished molting, the other species actually has light white stripes on its legs and knees. Very hard to see.
Yeah.
That tells you that just because it's on the internet and just because it's been thought to be so doesn't mean it's right. The entire tarantula hobby pretty much had this wrong for decades. So like I said, do your research. And it's still to this day, people are learning about it and knowing it, but we're still calling Brazilian blacks because that's what we've called them for so long.
Yeah.
Even though that what I've really got is a GQ, not a GP. I don't care because it's a beautiful pet either way.
Yeah.
And they're both so very similar in temperament and personality that I guess it really doesn't matter. But that's just one more instance of why pay attention, do your research, follow the science, learn the bodies. If I had known more about that species, I would have known right off the bat what I had had until it molted and those white stripes were super apparent. And I went, well, that's not the thing that I thought it was.
Yeah. So I am washing later. I'm gonna do a thorough wash, but I can feel the eradicating hairs from Shadow and from my Chilean rose. I literally felt like in my pinky. Ugh. But anyways, it's not that bad. It's just irritating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So later I'm gonna do soap and water, and we're gonna call it a night.
Oh, Sean wants to know what level the urticating hairs are on a Brazilian black.
2.
Two? That's not
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. Not bad at all.
So,
Oh,
do
okay.
you want to do your full list?
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So before we
No.
yeah. Okay. So not because I'm biased, but because you know, their temperament, their age, and their size for both male and female, and their husbandry is really easy kept. The Brazilian black or the Kuragai um, is my number one species. Number two, I'm going to do 5. Number two would be, I'm sorry, but number 2 is a pinktail, the avicularia, because they're so basic and very easy to keep for, more than the Carabiner versicolor or any
Mm-hmm.
type of avicularia or Carabina. Any arboreal New World, they're just very easy to keep. Um, and okay, so that was number 2. Number 3 would, in my opinion, the Aphonopelma, any Aphonopelma. So Aphonopelma samani, Aphonopelma caucodes, even the Aphonopelma gabelli, they are very easy to take care of, like easy maintenance. Yeah, 4. Am I the fourth? Yeah, fourth would be the Tanzerai. Did I say it right? Yes, the Tanzerai. Um, the Bonanita Tenny Bonzerai. Yeah. What? Tanzerai. I need some sleep. Click. So that would be number 4. What?
You have to start with the jumping spider. Okay, you know what? That's an awesome point. Before we'll stop our list for a second.
Yeah.
Jumping spiders, people are a great starter
Yeah.
spider to get into. Super hardy, easy to keep. They have not a ton of requirements. They're fun. They're very personal. They actually do like to come out. Captive bred ones, find a really good breeder. They actually do like to come out and interact with people. So the downsides of them are the short lifespan, but everything else on them is awesome. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Real quick, I need everyone, and I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. Okay, pet chain stores are starting to wild caught jumping spiders and selling them.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, I'm calling you guys out. Petco and PetSmart are taking these spiders that have no business in doing in their small tiny containers when they should be kept in a big area, because that's where they're from. Their natural habitat is a wide range. So that's not the only reason. I have a friend who has been asking me questions because they had bought from a pet chain store a jumping spider. Supposedly, when you buy stuff from a pet chain store, they're supposed to be captive bred. This person bought one from the store and it laid a sack. How could it lay a sack if it's captive bred? Because
Mm-hmm.
it was wild caught. So now he has to deal with 109. He counted 109 babies. He's doing
Mm-hmm.
a job. But if you're a first time beginner trying to get into tarantulas and you start with a jumping spider and you buy one from the store, 90% of the chance you're getting a wild caught. Might as well just go outside and get one yourself. Don't pay 30, 20, $40, even $60 for a jumping spider that's going to last you either 1 or 2 years because you don't know if it's a male or female. Males last between 3 to 6 months to a year, depending on what species of jumping spider. And then not knowing that if it's wild caught or captive bred, 99% it's not going to be captive bred. So please, I need everyone to don't just please don't buy a jumping spider from the store. Get one from online where you know 100% is going to be captive bred and it's going to come to you as a sling and you can raise it up. I
There are a
need
ton of
everyone,
great captive bred people to buy from in
yes,
the US. Tons and
yes.
tons.
So I need everyone to either sign a petition, uh, put what's it called, a complaint to the stores, write a complaint, do whatever you can to stop this from happening because it's not only damaging our ecosystem across America, it's also damaging our ecosystem from illegal importing. So that's my spiel on the jumping spider debate.
I'm gonna number one, clip it, Sean. That needs to be said. That definitely needs to be repeated. We have all been to Petco, PetSmart, some of these other big chains because you get into a pinch. And whatever your local store is out or is closed or is farther away, and so you're stuck having to use them every so often.
Mm-hmm.
I was in there not too long ago because they carry Reptisoil pretty cheap, and it's a pretty standard substrate that I can use for a lot of different tarantulas and lizards and everything else, and I know it's safe. Um, Went in for sale to get some, and of course, you can't help it. We are who we are. No matter what we say, you always venture over and you look at the animals. And
Yeah.
especially us, we're looking over at the exotics. Kat and I are like, what do you got for tarantulas? And I'm seeing $30 pink toes, aviculae aviculae, which wasn't, it was aviculae metallic.
Yeah.
Metallic? Metallic, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to the lady, I said, which kind of pink toes do you think you have down there? And
Mm.
the comment is what told me everything that you need to know about these chain stores. Hold on,
Yep.
I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna get right up in the camera. They're just spiders, man.
Big mistake.
You buy from a pet store that says they're just anything. When they give you that kind of attitude towards any kind of a pet, number one, why do you work there if you just really don't give a crap? Um, Go work at Walmart. Go work at McDonald's. Go work anywhere else. Don't work at a pet store if you don't care about the animals.
Or if you don't know.
Yeah, especially if you don't know.
Yeah.
And people, if you don't know about an animal, I contact people all the time when I don't know something. When Kat offers me advice, I listen. Okay? Humble yourselves, get your ego out of the way. It's whatever's best for the animal. And if you don't know, ask.
Yep.
Flat out. And I did. So you go in and you see these pink toes, right? Some other tarantulas, and their price is ridiculously cheap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like $20 for a juvenile. Yeah, I'm just and
Yeah.
they're what you call like there's a lot of wild caught pink toes in the hobby. It happens. And you can kind of tell because the wild caught stuff's usually a little bit more skittish. And these
Mm-hmm.
things are crazy skittish. And held a bunch. So yeah, they're getting wild caught stuff and they're just not telling you.
Yeah. Not only that, some of the tarantulas at these stores are being sold way overpriced and
Oh my
miss
goodness.
a GBB 199. Why? Why?
Ugh.
Yeah.
And definitely, you know, well, I'll get into that on my list as to my feelings on GBBs. That's gonna be the second one I make people mad about.
Yeah. But ooh,
All right. So what else you got on your list, Kat?
oh, that scared me.
Do you think you knocked over an enclosure?
Yeah. No, I didn't. It was the light. Um. So for my last one, um, would be a Tillicado verdezi. Okay, they are precious and need to be more in the hobby. However, this species heavily gives out more. Hi, Sybil. Gives out more male than female. So if you have a verdezi, most likely, like if you get it as a sling, most likely you have a male. It's so rare that you find a female. But yeah, this species is
What's the common
I'm
name?
I don't know, but
What?
it's
Whoa.
yeah, I don't know, but it's Tillicatl verdezi. Um, so T verdezi. I don't know the common name. You could look it up. Um, they are the second to I'm going to say the first one, but they are the second, in my opinion, the best, and I mean best species to handle, take care of. Now, this is my opinion and my experience. Um, I just love them. The sad thing is there's more males, so the mature males don't last long either for this species. They last up to a year or less. Yeah. And then my number one, which needs to be more in the hobby, is the Homeoma chiliensis. The It used to be the Euryses, but now it's Homeoma chiliensis. They are a dwarf species, and they are the number one tarantula that has never been reported to give you any threat pose, kick hair. They're just the best, and I am dying for one, but it's so rare in the hobby. That's
So
it.
the Tillicati verdezi is called the Mexican rose gray.
Okay, rose gray.
Um, yeah, and there's a lot of stuff from northern Mexico, Oklahoma, Texas area that's actually pretty cool. I want to say it's a Tillicati species, but it actually, I think they call it like the North American Brazilian black. It's a little black tarantula. It doesn't get quite as big, I think,
Oh yeah,
as I cannot remember the full. I'll have to ask a friend of mine that had some for sale. I wish I would have grabbed one
yeah. Aphonopelma
because
strenendarchi.
they're black like a Brazilian black,
Yep.
very similar temperament to that or in Arizona. So with
Hmm.
that, I'm gonna go kind of out of order of hers. My favorite to recommend for new people, even though 90% of them are wild caught, are the Arizona blonde, and for a couple reasons. They are so easy to find. They have decently long lifespans, and they're slow growers. So things that are slow growers are typically longer lifespans. Um, Even when they do kick hairs, they're only a level one, so they're the least urticating hairs of a tarantula out there, and they have been reported. Now, do not do this, people, for a whole host of reasons, but people can go out and have gone out and just literally gone out, said, "Hey, look at you, tarantula on the ground, pick it up, take it home, and they've got a new pet." Do not do that. Do not do that. For a lot of reasons, your safety, their safety. It's probably illegal in I'm assuming a lot of areas um, and also we need to, if you can find somebody that captive breeds them, please do. so we can cut down on the amount of wild caught. Anything we can do to cut down on wild caught helps. He says that as he has two upstairs, but I'm looking for, I believe I have two females, and I'm looking for a male to hopefully put some love back in the hobby. But they are very inexpensive, can easily be found under $100. Low level verticating hairs. I've got two that are the most temperamental Arizona blondes I've seen, and I can handle them at will. They kick a little hairs at me sometimes, and that's the worst of it. So they're okay as far as eaters go. They're not the greatest. They're not the worst. They're great display species, which I think is very important for first timers. You want a tarantula that's going to be out and you can see they're constantly out and doing stuff. Um, they have got a very sandy color to them, and they usually have a contrasting kind of black on the inside of their legs, and the outside is going to be that nice sandy blonde to hide. So those are my number one.
Nice.
My number two is one that we just saw she had problems with. So once again, do your research, go check it out. And it's a Chaco Golden Knee. I have had amazing luck with Chaco Golden Knees. I have heard of what I just saw, and it's the first time I've actually been able to see it in person, one that was grumpy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, I got one I'm going to hopefully pick up here soon that she is just an absolute doll. And the same people have got it from, their daughter has a monster one female, and she is just an absolute sweetheart. She's been the first tarantula I can't countless people have actually been able to hold because she's so sweet. But that goes to show you that just because I know of, I don't even know how many I've seen now at this point. Just because I've seen that many, handled that many that have been calm, doesn't mean that I've just not gotten lucky and not found the Grumpasaur one. So, but I put them at number two because of price and availability. Brazilian blacks would be number one on my list. These are my top three, would be number one on my list. Oh, yeah. Sky, we'll talk about green bottles. Um, Brazilian blacks would be number one if it wasn't for availability and price.
Mm.
Availability on those has gone way down because they have stopped exporting and we are not able to import them from South America. One by one, the country shut down a lot of their exporting, and don't. I'm not angry at them for that. I get that it's best for the hobby. It's best for nature. And honestly, if we stop down a lot of importing, maybe we'd be forced to actually breed some of these animals instead of continuously collecting them from the outside. But you can find these Brazilian blacks. Go look on Morph Market if you get bored and look up the Brazilian blacks. Either we got into that, either the GQ or the GP. Gonna say it, I can do it, Cat. Gramastola Curie.
Kira guy.
Dang it. Um, and Gramastola pulchra. Um, and either one is very expensive. I've seen both of them up over $1,000 right now. Uh, and there's some up over 2,000. Some I think I saw one the other day for over 3,000 for a large adult female. That's Morph Market, so they charge a lot. Sometimes they're not really that willing to sell, so they're willing to jack the price up.
Yeah.
But yeah, well over $1,000 is pretty common. I got
Yeah.
lucky. I know people.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andy. And I did not pay an arm and a leg. I still have both of my kidneys. Uh, if it was not for that, they would be my absolute number one. They're one of the only species I've known of that I have had I've heard of a rumor from one person that said they knew of one. So it was those, I know a guy that knew a guy that knew a guy, but they're one of the only species that I have known of that nobody has, that's widely known that doesn't. Um, those are my big three, as I call them. Those are my first three recommendations. Um, Now, saying that, that's as an adult. Okay,
Mm.
that's as a fully grown animal that I know what the temperament is at this point. Slings is always a roll of the dice. Juvenile, still a bit of a roll of the dice because they're small and still nervous. Now, my honorable mentions are pumpkin patch, a dwarfish species. I've seen those very commonly. I've known a couple less than thrilled ones, but they're not super grumpy. So even if it's not the happiest of ones, it's still not a super grumpy animal.
Mm-hmm.
And they're pretty. They're orange and they're not huge, so it kind of makes them a nice beginner species because you're not intimidated by something that's the downside of chacos too. They can get really big. They're not
Yeah.
bird eater size, but they're big.
Yeah.
Long legs. But a pumpkin patch, I don't know what, about 2.5, 3 inches, I think is max for a
Yeah.
female. They're not big. Um,
Apalope
and
is
and
yeah species.
and pink toes. Pink toes are an honorable mention on my list. The aviculae, and the metallic.
Mhm.
They're very similar in temperament and even in look a little bit, which is why they get confused.
Yeah.
And
M1, M2.
most, I know that there's also a lot of muddied waters with those two where
Yeah.
they've been bred back and forth mistakenly, accidentally,
Yeah.
sometimes on purpose. Um, but the ones that I do want to talk about, versicolors and green bottle blues. Now,
Mm.
why is that? People want a versicolor because they're absolutely stunning,
It
right?
is. Yes.
So stunning, and so many of the pink toes. Pink toes are just a great group. I mean, there's actually giant pink toes, like a Goliath pink toe, that's still in aviculae. There's aviculae purpea, which is basically a purple pink toe, which is stunning, hard to find. There's the Cosmic Dream pink toe, also stunning, hard to find. The
Amazing.
versicolor is easy to find.
Yeah.
Prices aren't bad on them.
Hmm.
Um, if you want a display species that you're not going to do a lot with, they're not bad, but they can be skittish. I call them a 50-50 species because some are really chill, some are skittish. And I've known a lot of great versicolors. I've known a few that were not so happy. Um, Green bottle blues, I've known a lot of grumpy green bottle blues, and everybody loves their green bottle blues. I think they're an awesome tarantula for maybe a second or a third tarantula.
Yeah.
Um, Personal opinion, not your first. They can be too grumpy sometimes. And I've known a lot of green bottle blues that web really heavy and hide,
Yeah.
and you don't get to see them. So that's really boring. So now you have a tarantula you don't really want to touch and you can't see.
Yeah.
So I kind of take them off the list. Whereas I'm with Kat. A lot of the arboreals are really nice because you can see them. They're easy to keep. So I would say I go with her on the pink toes. If
Hmm.
you want one that you're not necessarily worried about handling, pink toes are my go-to. The avicular or the avicular metallica, um, and they're just considered to be the common pink toes.
Yeah. I want to answer a question here.
Go for it.
Um, where did I see it? K Gems, Dark Desire Pythons. Are male or female tarantulas more docile? So males, depending on species, it all depends on species. So
I'm glad you said it.
male, yeah. So for males, they're typically more skittish. Females are more defensive.
Yeah.
um, yeah.
Oh,
So it also depends on what molt cycle they're in. So with that answer, you will never know. Yeah, you can't say yes or no. What was that, Joe?
oh. So a couple of friends of mine. Just on a note, my first personal tarantulas were all tarantulas that you should not personally buy. But like I said, I had a lot of experience in the industry. Pokies are some of my favorite because they're beautiful. Friends of mine just made me up some sign. Poke around and find out.
Oh yeah, I like that.
And I say that because going off of what was just talked about, I gotta do this while I'm facing you. Yeah, uh, that is. Oh wow, my lens is dirty. That is the best saying. When you work with these animals and you start doing stuff, it really is mess around and find out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what we're trying to talk to you about here is, darn it, is to not find out, is to, for both you and the animal, to not find out.
You're right.
So once again, do your research.
Yeah. So that's
As you notice, we agree on a lot of stuff, and
Mhm.
we didn't even agree on all the animals. We had a couple we agree on, and that goes to show you that you can't just base your opinion off of what everybody else says.
Mhm. Yes. So that's a good segue into our next episode that we should do is talk about only old worlds. What do you say?
Ooh, you know what? I was going to ask. We should maybe get Andy Whitaker from Eight Legs on for that episode, seeing as he has a ton of old worlds.
Yes.
Andy introduced me to some very fun old worlds. We've done, and Kat's seen some of the pictures. My absolute favorite old world, I think, that I've ever done for Andy was a Singapore Blue,
Mhm.
because she showed up and she was spicy at home before she came, spicy during the trip, and spicy after she left. But when we did the photo shoot, I do not do this at home, people. I'm just dumb and really lucky. Um, she kept getting stuck on my tongue, so I finally said, heck with it, and I used my left hand for all the camera folks, because all cameras are right-handed, so right hand's the clicky hand. Can't lose that one.
Yeah.
And I was actually able to pick up her feet individually with my fingers gently and pose her. And she was so calm and relaxed that I was able to do that. That was an awesome experience. You just aren't able to do those things with tarantulas like that typically. So
Yeah.
understanding that is a really cool experience. And old worlds are just fun.
Yeah. Very fun. Yeah, because we can definitely talk about that because I have some that are relatively calm and some that are not. And there's a lot that we can discuss about old worlds that isn't really typically shined light on. So yeah.
Mm-mm. I feel like there's a lot of your I keep looking at the screen. Your favorite baboon tarantulas. There are so many wives' tales about those things out there.
Yeah. And 10 of them. There's 10 species.
What did I do with my other wife?
Pokemon, gotta catch them all.
Oh,
Wait,
come here,
no.
baby.
Sarah, gotta catch them all. That sounds horrible. Click.
All right. Do you want out again?
Who
So,
is
and
that?
this is why I like. All right. So she is an active girl and likes to get out. She loves to get out. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is why Brazilian blacks, if they were more readily available, would be my absolute number one.
Yeah.
Um,
John, blow him up. I think he fell asleep.
So, gonna see if I can look at the fangs on this girl.
Gorgeous.
Now, it's really weird, but with Brazilian blacks, they drop their fangs a little bit, I've noticed, and my
Mm-hmm.
fingers are literally touching the bottom of her fangs here, people.
Yeah.
Do not do this. This is stupid. I'm doing this for a particular reason, so you can see. I'm moving this here so you can see them as she comes out. Um,
Mine does the same.
um, and they will drag them over your hands. See if I can actually get a better view. How about that, Kat? Can you see them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Hello,
she
gorgeous.
she is an absolute gem. Um, she is so ridiculously calm, um, that my wife, who's never wanted to touch a tarantula, was perfectly comfortable holding her.
Yeah.
Happy to do so. And this girl lets me just move her around. She
Mm-hmm.
actually prefers to be out and moving. As you can see, I'm trying to let her go, and I
Yep.
tip my hands down, and there we go. She'll
Yeah.
start crawling around sometimes, and she likes being out. It's
They
really
do.
strange.
Yeah, they do. They're wanderers.
Which is why this, by the way, folks, for me is the minimum enclosure for her. Um, she's going to get upgraded. This is like, I think we said, a 15 by 11 by 10, um, 15 long, 11 deep, 10, 10 tall. Yeah, something like that. This is her first enclosure. And then I'm thinking that she's going to get ready to molt possibly soon. We'll see how she does. Brazilian blacks, because they're such slow growers, can be in pre-molt for like I've
Ever.
heard up to a year.
Yep.
Yeah. They can also go on hunger strikes like ball pythons.
Yep.
So all fun things. As much as she's webbing, I'm thinking that she's starting to mark her little home in here, and I'm going to come down one of these days and see a nice little web bed.
Yeah.
Now, this particular little fun person, this is going to be a good time. Where did I put my other light? There it is. We're not using any fancy lights today. We're using a flashlight because this thing is good fun.
Sean, blow
So
him up.
this
There you go.
is a, oh, you're going to have to help me out here. Purple bloom bird eater, a P.
Yeah.
Macula.
Panthobidius platioma.
Macula.
Okay. Sorry, it's not a Panthobidius. It is a P. machala. So is it Formictimus or Panthobidius?
I don't know. It starts with P.
Yeah, P
So
machala.
can we see all the purple in here, Kat?
Oh, it's shining.
So this little booger has been the hair kickingest tarantula, and that's truly impressive after bird eaters